Yo, what is up? We're back. This is Ryan with No Border Sports, and I'm here with my guest today, Ted, or at Ted H6 from Twitter, the man with the receipts. Most people might know. Some people get annoyed with him. I personally like it. And you're like, please, in the future, if you catch me slipping on some, please humble me.
That's the way I am too, Ryan. Thanks for having me. Appreciate it. Happy 2023. Excited to chop it up here with you today. And I'm the same way as you. Last thing I ever want to do is spread bad info. So if I'm saying something that is wrong, let me know. Or, even if it's just you have a different opinion, let me know your opinion. And, it usually doesn't happen quickly, but slowly over time, I actually do change my opinion sometimes. So, with help from friends and maybe even frenemies too, right? So,
and sometimes I think people they don't understand that maybe they're seeing things through a different lens, and someone like you coming through saying, "Oh, we'll pump the brakes," because that's essentially what you're trying to do is say, "Oh, don't be so bold, pump the brakes." You know what I mean? And I think that's good, to see things from the other side, whether someone agrees with you or not, as long as there's a good, thought-provoking conversation, you win.
No doubt about it. That's what we're all here for.
Say what's up to Damian Lee, also Cowboy Angel. What's up? And Jess from East Coast Red and Gold podcast. They had a show last night. Last night I tuned in. I got there at the end. I didn't notice them till later. But yeah, they're having a great show talking about our boys and going forth in the season. We here today are here to talk about why the 49ers run a 4-3 defense. And I thought about this a couple weeks ago, and I thought Ted would be the right person to have on. Because, you know your things. Plus, you probably think of stuff that I haven't thought of. You know what I mean? So I want you on here enlightening me.
Judging by your prep notes that you sent over, there's no way, man. You covered everything super thorough. I learned from you, so thanks. I appreciate it.
Oh, yeah, no problem. So let me start off. The 49ers started using the 4-3 again once Kyle Shanahan took over with Robert Saleh. They mainly used a lot of zone in the secondary until D'Amico came over, and then D'Amico started switching up more man in passing situations and zone in more running situations. And that was brought about, I'm guessing, from the Super Bowl and how we got pieced up by Kansas City and all their receivers. Is there anything you want to bring into that?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of it had to do with Robert Saleh. He brought over the defense from the Seattle Seahawks and their same scheme, and a lot of people were not liking it in 2017 and 2018 when we didn't have the right personnel to make it function properly. 2017 we were pretty devoid of talent. 2018 we still didn't have a lot of talent, but we got Richard Sherman. But Richard Sherman in 2018 had just had one or two Achilles surgeries, I think two, and so he was kind of playing on one leg, if you will, is what a lot of people say. So then in 2019, a lot of things changed for the defense. We traded for Dee Ford, who's a great speed rusher when he's healthy. Obviously, you have to say when he's healthy because he rarely was for us, but he was some there in 2019 and in the playoffs to get us to the Super Bowl. Also, we drafted Nick Bosa in 2019, number 2 overall. Thank you, Cardinals, who we play this week, for taking Kyler Murray instead of Nick Bosa. Man, imagine if that had been reversed. So glad.
Thank you.
We have Nick, and hopefully he'll win the DPOY this year. It looks like he should. No reason he shouldn't. The big question now is, will he tie or beat Alden Smith's single season sack record for the 49ers, which is 19 and a half sacks. He's at 17 and a half. So it would take 2 to tie it and 2.5 to surpass it. So hopefully he can get that this week against the Cards and David Blau. But another big addition for 2019 was Quan Alexander. We signed him as a free agent. We traded for D Ford and we drafted Nick Bosa. So those were 3 big additions. And then Richard Sherman was playing more like the old Richard Sherman in 2019 after not being very effective in 2018. And so
Buckner and Armstead finally came on as, the players that we would know them as today.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I mean, Buckner had that one crazy season where he had a bunch of sacks. I'm going to say like 11 or 12 sacks, but he was the only guy in the defense in 2017 or 2018 when he did that. I think it was 2018. And to have help there from Bosa, from D Ford, those are the big 4, the starting 4. But obviously there was a lot of people in that first half of the season too that didn't make it so well into the second half of the season that really helped that defense to be historic, or to be at least on a historic pace for the first 8 games, that we didn't end up that way. But, Ronald Blair was really good. He tore his ACL sacking Russ Wilson. DJ Jones got injured and didn't really finish out the season or the playoffs. Julian Taylor was an often injured player, but very good defensive tackle when he played. So, you ask why we play the 4-3 defense. Part of it is because Saleh set us up that way. But then once we were set up that way, we drafted around it. And, Nick Bosa, we were just talking about what an amazing player he is. He's pretty uniquely suited for the 4-3 defense. And if we switch to a 3-4, I don't think Nick would be as valuable or as, we would be able to utilize his strengths as easily. And for people who don't know the difference, 3-4 is somewhat misleading because it makes you think that there's only 3 defensive linemen. And I guess if you're being literal about it, that's the truth. But the way it works out is that you have 3 defensive linemen, 2 defensive ends, and a defensive tackle or nose tackle, essentially, in the middle. But then you have 2 outside linebackers who come up and play on the line of scrimmage as well. And so that's where Nick Bosa is going to have his most efficacy, is rushing off the edge and, stopping running backs off the edge. The way that Nick would be not utilized as well in a 3-4 defense, where he would be playing on the edge, and then there'd be a defensive tackle, a nose tackle, another defensive end, a nose tackle, another defensive end, and another outside linebacker, is that if a running back were to run out into a pattern out of the backfield by Nick Bosa, he would then have to leak out into coverage and cover that back out of the backfield. And that's not Nick Bosa's strength. And so that's where outside linebackers have a little bit different skill set than defensive ends. You end up having to call them edge players, essentially. You have to call the defensive ends in a 4-3 edges, and you have to call the outside linebackers in a 3-4. You'd call them edge players rather than defensive ends, because there's a defensive end. There are 2 defensive ends in a 3-4, but they're really more like defensive tackles. It's almost like you have 3 defensive tackles when you play a 3-4, because of how narrowly they line up. And then I guess, the thing to note for the Niners is we run a variant of the 4-3 called the wide 9, which is where the defensive ends line up extra wide, and so do the defensive tackles. And that makes it easier to sort of double team the defensive tackles and sometimes run up the middle, unless you have a really good defensive tackle like an Eric Armstead, or last year when we had DJ Jones, was uniquely suited to shed those double teams, hold his ground, and ultimately stop running backs from running up the middle very efficiently.
Yeah. The other thing I'd like to point out is with the 3-4 defense, the edge players that you're talking about, it's hard to be good at both responsibilities, both pass rushing and dropping back into passing or into passing lanes and all that good stuff, you know, covering people.
Just ask Jamal Adams.
Yeah. So like you've got with the 49ers, essentially they've put all the assets in the right situations and gave them the right responsibilities to do their job correctly. You know what I mean? The other thing is, so they're linebackers. What are their linebackers? They're converted safeties. Why is that? Because we need people who can cover people. So they take the heavier safety and they convert them into a linebacker and ask them to stop the run. And they've been lucky. They've been getting guys who are able to do it, but they can also drop back and get the pass. And that's what gives them that edge. They don't have to worry about having 4 linebackers when they've got 4 guys down linemen who can get after the quarterback and they can drop everybody else. And if you need to blitz somebody, you can blitz one of those amazing linebackers. They've got the speed to cover wide receivers. They can also rush the passer extremely quick. Also, like with Nick Bosa, you know what I mean? Yes, he could be an edge player, and he has gone out and covered people in certain situations, and you can always do that. You know what I mean? But when it comes down to it, his job is to go after, play the run first, and if there's no run, you go after the quarterback. And it's real simple because the more simple somebody's responsibilities are, the faster they can play. And the faster that they can play, especially on the defensive lines, the quicker you get turnovers. You know what I'm saying? Or stoppages of play. You know, sacks, all that good stuff.
And so, I bring up another player who is, I wouldn't say uniquely suited to the 3-4, but who the 3-4 suits better than a 4-3. Or the 4-3 suits better than a 3-4, and that's Samson Ebukam. The Rams play a 3-4. He was an outside linebacker / edge for them, and he, wasn't very good in coverage, and it slowed down his ability to get to the quarterback when he was constantly having to think about, is somebody going to go out into the pattern? Do I have to cover, or can I just pin my ears back and go? When the Rams lost him, they let him walk and we signed him. I had so many Rams fans tell me, he's no good. He's no good. He's he's bad. He's, all kinds of things. And some of that is just fans, when a player leaves a team, very few fans will actually admit that they were a good player that they let go. But some of it was that he's just much better in a 4-3 system like we run than he is in a 3-4 like the Rams run. And so that's another player, or another probably reason why we have kept it as players like him.
Yeah, and I think that's the whole thing is they've been consistently putting pieces around that totally work well with the system. I think the reason why they did a lot with zone with Robert Saleh in the beginning was to stop the run, because with zone, everything's in front of you. Pretty much you're getting back to your spot and you're looking in front of you. So if you turn around and it's a run play, well, you can go up and play the run. You don't have to worry about responsibilities anywhere. You know what I mean? So it made him quicker to stop the run. And I think we've seen that people are getting some more yards in certain plays, like not average, but certain plays. They can get more yards than they used to on us, because it used to be you know what I mean? They get a yard, maybe 2, to the point where they just have to give up because it just wasn't happening. What crap are you watching? Our crap. No. So I think they've done a really good job building around, and now they've kind of gone to more man, and I like that on passing downs. I think it gives the defensive line more time, and in turn it gives everybody more chances at turnovers. So the 49ers obviously have 4 down linemen. This allows play faster, more athletic players in the linebacker position, as they can put their best pass rushers on the field. So essentially, everybody's got simple responsibilities. You don't have to be playing 1 foot and 1 in one position and one foot in the other. Um, a lot of offenses rely on passing games, and they say that the 4-3 is not as good against the pass game because you can't drop as many people into coverage. Now, um, I think that's false. That's just the run of the mill explanation for it. Because what are you going to do? Drop all of your linebackers into coverage on a pass play? That's a prevent defense. There's often nobody's in that type of a defense, right? So even in a 3-4, how many people are you going to have rushing the ball at the minimum at any point in time? Normally 4, maybe 5. You know what I mean? So essentially in a 4-3, you've got the same amount of people who can be rushing at any given time as in a 4-3. The only difference is you've got more people on the line who are used to doing that 100% of the time. You know what I mean? So that's one thing going through, definitions of things. Like it says that it's not good for the pass, and it's like that's not true. You know what I mean? The Niners can drop 7 people into the defensive secondary. Your linebackers can cover wide receivers. They can cover tight ends. They can cover anything. The safeties can cover wide receivers, all that, slot, all that. So how is that the issue? It's not. It's just what people think, because when you run a 3-4 with different personnel groups, you can move different people in to do different plays that you could be more technical about things and break things down into smaller things. But when you do that, people have to think more. And when people think more, they go slower. So to me, I don't think the trade-off's there to go to something like a 3-4 and be able to use all this extra personnel groupings and, like all these different things. I don't think it's there when you could just fly fast. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that one system. I mean, I guess if you have, 5 DBs with, a 3-4 defense, it could be better in pass coverage. But we run 5 DBs in our nickel package when we bring Jimmy Ward in, when we take Aziz Al-Shire off the field, and then bring in Jimmy Ward as our nickel. So, I mean, I think we do pretty well in pass coverage there. I mean, where we're having trouble in pass coverage, Tommy Huxley had a funny comment there. And I think he nailed it. We're missing Emmanuel Mosley. When we had Emmanuel Mosley and Charvarius Ward on the boundaries, we were able to run a lot more.
Nasty.
Yeah, very nasty. A lot more man coverage with E-Man and Charvarius Ward in there. And since we've replaced Emmanuel Mosley with Diamador Lenore, we've had to play more zone, and that's where we've gotten picked apart more. We're starting to see, Hufanga get, beaten up a little bit in pass coverage. Teams are starting to pick on his aggressiveness, where they get him flowing forward and then they dump something off behind him. We saw it in the Raiders game with the TD to Waller. We actually saw it a few times in the Raiders game.
Shout out to Jesse for putting out that tweet showing the first 11 games and the last 5 games.
Yeah.
That was a good opener. Jesse Naylor at Last Second Sports. Go check him out.
No, I mean, I was having an argument with somebody on the timeline, an Eric Armstead hater, and they were saying that they had Hufanga and Jimmy Ward ahead of Eric Armstead as far as like top Niner defensive players. They asked me where I put him, and they were saying 6th, and I was saying more like 4 to 6. I mean, you could make an argument why, Jimmy Ward or Hufanga are better, but I don't think it's a airtight argument. Eric Armstead's really good. I would put Charvarius Ward ahead of Eric Armstead.
You saw how good the defense was when he came back.
Yeah. No, I mean, I would say obviously Bosa is our best defender. Fred maybe not having the best year, but I still give him credit as our second best defender. I put Dre Greenlaw 3rd. And then maybe Charvarius Ward 4th, Eric Armstead. You can make an argument for Eric Armstead,
You can make an
Jimmy
argument for a
Ward,
lot of
and
people.
Hufanga. Yeah, no, you could. Our defense has got a lot of good players. Anyway, yeah. I mean, I think Amenahu's kind of worked his way into that conversation too.
I don't know. It seems to me like now I haven't gone back and like researched every play with this, but it seems to me like I've noticed that when he's in zone, it seems like he's giving up more stuff than when he's in man. The only thing that I see him give up in man is penalties. You know what I mean? When he's beat. But at the same time, we haven't. I don't remember us losing a lot of or giving up a lot of touchdowns off those penalties. You know, it seems like the defense can always get together, and it seems like once Demo's not in such big space, he gives up less plays. You know what I mean? So in the red zone, all that when I don't know, just something I think. Tommy wanted to know if he thinks the defense is good enough to win in the playoffs. Yes, it is. Yeah, especially if they don't get sick. People were doubting him the other day after the Commanders game, and John V came in and said how they had been some of the guys on the defense have been under the weather. And then I thought back to the game, and I was like, oh, that's why he couldn't wrap up and tackle, because you're weak from being sick. You know what I mean? Like I can't fault you there. Anybody's been sick with, any sort of sickness, you're not 100%, 2-3 days later. You know what I mean? You're still weak because your body's not got the nutrients it needed. And, so yeah, totally kind of made sense. Yeah, we'll see. We'll see this game if they get a 2 or 3 interceptions or 2 or 3 turnovers and a couple sacks. Nick Bosa. Yeah, I think Nick Bosa is going to go on a tear this game. I think other people on the line are going to ball out, just because essentially everybody else on the line kind of and their effort helps Nick Bosa get towards that goal. The more of a terror you can be on that offensive line, the more they have to look at you instead of Nick. And the moment they start doing that, Nick gets a sack. You know what I mean? So, yeah. Your thoughts on Demo? What I said about Demo?
I mean, I think we have him in there because he's good in the run fit and he's a good tackler. And I think that we sacrifice coverage. I don't know that we have a lot of better options. I mean, I wonder if Janoris Jenkins could be a better cover boundary corner. Even Ambry Thomas seemed a little bit better in coverage last year at the end of the season, but then something happened to him, and he just, ever since OTAs in camp, seems like a different guy. I really thought he was going to take a step up this season, but he really seems to have stepped back, unfortunately. So I don't know that we have a lot of better options. And especially with Demo being young, every time he plays, he has the ability, the chance to improve. And I think that's important to give him that chance as much as possible. But we will see when the playoffs come. I mean, as far as like Bosa this week breaking the record, I mean, I have no doubt that if it was a close game and that we might see it, but I don't think it'll be close, and I don't think he'll be in there that long. I'm really hoping, knock on wood, that none of our superstars and stars and impact starters are in the game for a long time against the Cards. I don't want to see, much of Debo, Mitchell, Ayuk, Kittle, CMC, even Mason. Let TDP get some reps. Let some of our other folks, Bosa on the defense, Warner, Dre, the people we were just talking about, those top 5 or 6 defenders. I don't want to see much of them either. I would love it if we treated it almost like a preseason game. I know Kyle won't. And so, it's probably fruitless to talk too much about that. But just last week, we saw Aaron Banks get injured and Dre Greenlaw get injured. I really hope we don't risk Dre Greenlaw's back. We're going to need him in the playoffs. Like, let it roll. Let's wait.
Yeah. Who's it? Odom?
Yeah.
Give him some time.
Yeah. I like Jordan Odom. No doubt about it.
We might need him for, a good amount of time during the playoffs if any one of our linebackers go down. So him getting some sort of shot to kind of get in a groove right before the playoffs and kind of, figure things out, that might be big because our linebackers kind of, they know their job and they don't think about it before they do it. And that can get you injured at times. You know what I mean? Just playing this game will get you injured, but you know what I'm saying? Like, and so it's good to have people waiting in the wings to handle those responsibilities.
And Tommy made a comment. He said that Debo needs reps, and yeah, Debo and Mitchell both need some reps to get back into game shape. But still, I'd like to see them limited at the very most, and I wouldn't mind seeing them not at all.
I don't want to see Debo on a sweep. You know what I mean? Nope, don't want to see Debo on a sweep. I'd like to see Debo used as a decoy for the first half of the game to where everybody's thinking, oh, Debo's back. We got to, everybody's keen on Debo, and then get George Kittle the ball on the other side. Get Juwan Jennings the ball on the other side. You know what I mean? Something. Have everybody let Debo throw another touchdown. I don't know. You know what I mean? I think this is 100% accurate. I don't think Mitchell plays either. I don't think Mitchell sees the game. I don't I don't think Mitchell needs to. What do we know from Mitchell? You know what I'm saying? He's great right out of the gate. He also doesn't put the ball on the ground. Not somebody who really needs to go through a whole bunch of warming up.
I mean, he's just back to practice this week, so that does make sense. I mean, like Debo came back to practice last week and didn't play, so wouldn't shock me. But I just would say that for both Mitchell. Oh, thanks, Eric. I would just say
Eric's
that
awesome.
for both Mitchell and Debo, they both need reps. Especially Mitchell needs reps to get into game shape because he missed from week 1 to 8 or so with one MCL, and then he came back for a couple or 3 games, and then he's out with another MCL till now to the end of the season. But you're right, he did when he came back. I thought he would be rusty in his first action back, and he was just like boom, shot out of a cannon. So maybe you're right.
I'd hold him to the Super Bowl. You know what I mean? I'd have him on the sideline the whole time, breaking glass in case of emergency. But if we can hold him to the Super Bowl, hold him to the Super Bowl.
I just don't see Kyle doing that. I just think as soon as he's in a game where, any of those single elimination games, Kyle is going to use everything he's got. Now, I like what you're saying. I mean, don't get me wrong. I personally would love it if we could. I'm all about, player safety, keeping guys healthy. Like I said, a few weeks ago, I was saying I wouldn't mind once we clinched the number 3 seed. I was saying I wouldn't mind if we treated these last 3 games like they were preseason games and just play the superstars, stars, and key starters. A few series, maybe a quarter, and then get them out. But we obviously would not have beaten the Commanders or the Raiders that way. So easier said than done to rest people. It's wild.
I don't know. When you're getting almost a first down a clip up the middle with Mitchell, I'm sorry. That's an ace in the hole. And if you can hold that bad boy till the final table, I mean, I'm just saying.
No, I know I'm with you 100%, especially with how injury prone the guy is. I mean, my God, it's like
I would save him to
5 or 6 injuries last year, and then one MCL this year, come back, boom, the other MCL within a couple games.
I'm telling you,
wild.
second half of the Super Bowl, once they stop that run game a little bit and they start choking up on it, trying to, keep, then pow, Elijah Mitchell right up the center on them. And then they'll be, oh fuck. You know what I'm saying? Like, they can't do anything. You know what I mean? That will break the morale. And then Kittle, you know what I'm saying? Kittle, Debo, once they get a couple runs, we got two guys on the team who really supercharge the team, and it's Kittle and it's Bosa. I mean, what those two do on the field, well, Debo too. What those two do on the field, it really just juices people up, and it just gets everybody all in, and they're just trying to take people's souls after that point.
Now it's hard to overestimate the emotional effect of those bone-crushing runs by Debo and Kittle, and the saccaroonies by Bosa. He's something else. Even just the pressures, as we saw against the Raiders, he didn't have a sack, but some of those Eric Armstead haters I was arguing with were saying, "Oh, he doesn't have any sacks." I said, "Yeah, but Eric Armstead has, pressures that led to the Jimmy Ward interception against the Dolphins, as well as the Jimmy Ward interception against the Commanders." And I said, I'd rather have the interceptions than the sacks, or, the pressures that led to interceptions than the sacks. And then, and then Eric Armstead had a huge game against the Raiders, obviously, where he, stuffed the running back. It must have been Jacobs near the goal line on 4th and short, where we got a turnover on downs. And then he had another one where he didn't make the stop there, but he basically stoned the blocker that disrupted the play that allowed, I think it might have been T.Y. McGill, who ended up cleaning up the running back the first time. And then the second time, Eric Armstead made a tackle for a loss on Jacobs. I think it might have been the only tackle for a loss of the day on Jacobs, because that guy
You're talking about the 4th and 1?
There was a 4th and 1 where Armstead blew up it was the left guard, and it allowed T.Y. McGill to make the tackle for no gain or for a loss, or it was no first at the for a turnover on downs. And then Armstead also had a tackle for a loss on Josh Jacobs, and that guy was peeling off 6 to 9 yards on almost every first down. It seemed like it was amazing what he was doing with the run. And I wasn't that surprised, I got to tell you, that we got gashed up the middle. Josh Jacobs is leading the league in rushing, and
they're so stupid for not running them more.
Yeah, no, and we've lost a lot of defensive tackles. We got Armstead back, but we lost Ridgeway, we lost Givens. Sounds like he'll be back for the playoffs, hopefully, Kevin Givens. But then even Akeem Spence was inactive during the Raiders game. And I know we let him go, and I think we re-signed him to the practice squad. But, that's a lot of depth at defensive tackle that we were missing for the Raiders game. And I've been sort of wondering why it hasn't shown up more this season as a liability for us. And part of it, I think, has to do with playing a lot of really banged up offensive lines. The Raiders don't have a great line, but I think they have a pretty good run blocking offensive line, it seemed like.
Yeah, that's the thing. You can look at Mike McGlinchey. He's an ace when it comes to run blocking, and his pass blocking, he is not up to par. Yeah.
Although he did play well against the Raiders. I mean, he shut out Max Crosby. So, I mean, I got to give him some credit there. Brad Graham posted a few videos. I know I don't expect it to last, but I'm going to, as much as I beat him up, I got to give him credit when he plays well.
So
I thought he had a pretty good game against the Raiders.
Real quick, I want to talk about this. So why the 49ers run a 4-3 is because it's good against the run. But why do they need a defensive scheme that's good against the run? And it's because of our division. Our division has normally been, we had the Seahawks who love to run the ball, and you had the Cardinals in here, run the ball with Connor. You know what I mean? And even at one point, the Rams were even trying to run the ball down people's throats. So it seems like it's a necessity to win the division. You look around, you see what everybody else is doing, and you try and combat that so you can get the division win every year. What up, Mariah? Me and Mariah go back like babies and pacifier. Shout out to ODB. So yeah, the because not every the league's switching to more of a passing league, but that's why I think the wide 9 is set up. It's a 4-3, but it's trying to have those outside rushers, those wide outside rushers, like a 3-4 would have. You know what I mean? So it's kind of best of both worlds. And if you're going to run the ball, we got linebackers that can come up and stuff the gaps. You know what I mean? And their D tackles are getting off their blocks and they're getting penetration. So it's going to be issues. Now, also having a strong run defense, it makes the 49ers able to control the clock and the tempo of the game. If you can't run the ball, you can't drain the clock. If you're passing all the time, all you need is a couple of incomplete passes and a catch, behind the line to gain, and that's a 3 and out. You know what I mean? So it makes things better for everybody. You know what I mean? Keeps the defense with their bend and don't break. Their bend and don't break essentially philosophy. It makes it so they can get off the field quick and without points and give the ball back to the offense, who will run the clock down, keeping the defense very rested to play at the top of their game the next time they get out there. Any thoughts on that?
No, I think it's exactly right. I think part of the reason why you might say that the 4-3 isn't quite as good in pass coverage as the 3-4 is not so much the coverage, it's the pressure. That you're going to get more pressure from 5 guys rushing than you will from 4. Even though the 5 guys aren't all dedicated to rushing, they can end up in coverage. One of them probably does end up in coverage on every play. It still potentially gives you more pass rush. So that might be the reason why. And it's definitely, I was doing a little research before we came on, just so I wasn't totally flat-footed on all this. And it was interesting that there's about 13 teams that run a 4-3 like we do. So that means 19 teams run the 3-4. So it is more popular, the 3-4 defense, than the 4-3. But some notable teams that run the 4-3 like we do, especially with the playoffs coming up, are the Eagles and the Kansas City Chiefs. I noticed we're 2 of the top teams. There's a lot of teams obviously that run both, but I was looking for teams that, that were contenders to see if who's the best or whatever. And those were the 2 that I came up with that are the 2 of the scarier teams that we might face that run that the 4-3 defense.
If you remember in the 2019 season, people always saying they're getting home and only rushing 4. You know what I mean? And that was the big thing. They're getting home and only rushing 4. And it's because of those athletes on the line and stacking people, getting the right people in the doors, which, like you mentioned earlier, it took a couple years. You know what I mean? But they did it from the ground up and they did it right. And that's what you saw. You saw 4 guys on 5 guys and still being able to get pressure where the quarterback has to throw the ball away or make a bad throw just to save himself from getting sacked.
No doubt about it. It's a key to this defense. Pressure is always key, but especially for us, you really notice it where our defense falls down. There's sort of 3 things I've noticed that can defeat our 4-3 wide 9 defense, and that is mobile quarterbacks, teams with really good offensive line, pass blocking offensive lines, and the third is maybe not so necessarily awesome offensive lines, but the refs let them hold. I would put the Kansas City Chiefs in the Super Bowl into that category.
I don't know if mobile quarterbacks is an issue to the wide nine or our rush philosophy. You know what I mean? Because I don't necessarily see it being an issue, especially if you've got like a linebacker, playing zone right there over the middle there, who can watch the quarterback and see what they do and step up in the pocket and tackle them if need be. I think we get upfield too fast and they just do what they can with their feet. I want to give a shout out to Mariah. She's got a show today at 3:45 Pacific Standard Time. Everybody go in there. She not only do her and TL put on a great show, but you got chances to win multiple cards and such. I guess, yeah. But they have a great show. She's got gifts, party favors. All you gotta do is pick a number. Yeah, she does a great job over there. Her and TL are awesome. And I think they had one of their community member. They seen her paying for all these cards for everybody else. They sent her a stack or something, a package of cards, just so she could send out to other people. So that's really wonderful, whoever that person might be.
Very nice. Love their show. Mariah was a great guest on TED Talks Ball. Have to get TL Taryn on there one of these days too.
I love he sometimes he'll say something and he doesn't care what you think about it. He just tells you what he thinks. And sometimes where the moment he says it, I'm like, I don't agree with that. And he's one of those people that when I listen to his reasoning, I'm like, oh dang, he's got a hell of a point. You know what I'm saying? Like it might change my opinion on something. It might not, but I step back smarter, seeing things through his eyes sometimes. And same thing with Mariah, but I love Mariah because she's passionate. She says what's on her mind. Definitely. I appreciate her.
That's all you can ask. Otherwise, you're just wasting time. If you're just trying to be polite or say what you think people want to hear.
Yeah.
Just get to your point, make it authentic, and go to bat. That's all you can ask.
Yeah. If saying what other people wanted to hear was a good thing, you know what I mean? Like they can just get that from somebody else. You know what I mean? Like they can go to the root source. You know what I mean? You've got nothing original to you. You know what I mean? Yeah, she says she still hasn't found. I don't know if you will. I think they don't want any, and that's kind of cool too. I think I wouldn't want to know. I mean, I wouldn't want anybody to know if I was going to send stuff. Me personally, I'm bashful with that type of stuff, so I wouldn't want any like light on me. But yeah, somebody's probably just doing good. Now, do you think there's any reason the Niners should change to a 3-4 defense? We've heard talks of Fangio coming in. He's notoriously a 3-4 guy. It's taken us so long to get to such a great defense here. Is there anything in the scheme that would be worth throwing in a monkey wrench to what we have now?
Not in my opinion. I mean, I think the losses of Nick Bosa's efficiency would outweigh any gains in, pass coverage that you might get from a 3-4. So, and I just feel like Kyle always likes to zig when other people zag. And so if it's a passing league and everybody's, doing whatever's the best to defend the pass, 19 teams run a 3-4 to defend the pass, Kyle is going to want to zig while they're zagging and build a team that can stop the run. Because, ultimately, if there are specialized personnel for either type of defense, If more teams run one type, there's going to be more demand for those types of players, which means it'll be easier to field a better defense more cheaply, doing what everybody isn't doing. And the same type of thing with us being run first when a lot of teams are passing first. So I think I don't see us switching. I mean, maybe if Vic Fangio comes, we might have to. We might not have a choice, but I really hope we don't, personally.
Yeah, I think it would take too long to get effective. You know what I mean? Because you're talking about you're going to obviously keep Nick Bosa, and you're going to try and make him the guy who's normally always rushing. You know what I mean? You're gonna do this thing where every 3 or 4 pass plays he breaks off into coverage. You know what I mean? So it keeps the offense honest.
Or you play him at defensive end instead of edge, where he's going to get doubled mercilessly and not just chipped by like a tight end or a back, but he's going to be doubled by 2 offensive linemen, which
that brings up my other
to defeat.
What I was kind of also going to go to is you've got to go
just like the Justin Smith role. I think would be
you got to go out and you got to get at least 2 nose tackles, at least 2 nose tackles. So you've got your starter and you've got his backup. Okay, now defensive tackles, you've already got. You know what I mean? I don't think you should be moving any. Well, you could move a couple defensive ends into tackle. But you're gonna need like Samson Ebukam. You got to go because Drake Jackson's is Nick Bosa's backup. You know what I mean? That's how I see that going. And then you're gonna need somebody who can play. I don't even know if we have him on the team. You know what I mean? You kind of need somebody who's like an Ebukam, but I don't know. You might be able to switch Greenlaw, put Greenlaw on the other edge. If you remember correctly, back in the day, Robert Saleh was talking about putting more on or taking stuff off of Fred Warner's plate. And he said, when we put stuff on his plate, he was doing okay, but I took some stuff off his plate and he started playing faster. And so I kind of kept it off because I like the way he's playing. You know what I mean? So you go to a 3-4 and Fred Warner's going to have to do a lot more thinking. And that's going to affect the quality of play we see on the field from him and maybe others. Because if he's having to do a lot more thinking, that caused a bad decision pre-snap, like as far as, calls, then that could be a breakdown of a play. You know what I mean? So I think there's a lot more than just personnel here. I think you're talking about how it functions. You know what I mean? I think we do great as far as like blitzing. That's where a 3-4 it kind of really would help out. We would be able to blitz from different areas. You know what I mean? We'd probably always rush 4, drop another guy back into coverage. So it'd just be the same as normal. You just wouldn't know who's dropping back in coverage on what certain situations. You know what I mean? Like sometimes the Seahawks, they like to hang who was it? Not Bobby Wagner, but the other KJ Wright. KJ Wright would sit in the gap behind the defensive end and to cut off a slant from the receiver in the slot, which that could be done in a 3-4 to do the same thing. You just take your defensive end and just put them off the ball. You know what I mean? So there's certain things you can do that's like mimic the 4-3 and do all this. But when it comes down to, we're kind of stuck where we're at right now, and without, contracts coming due and not being able to re-sign people, I don't think it's the right time to switch our total scheme up.
I'll give you another reason why we may not want to. You brought up a good point earlier in the stream where you were talking about a lot of our linebackers, or maybe literally every single one of our linebackers, is a converted, maybe not Dre Greenlaw, but Fred and Aziz are both converted safeties, and they're a little bit smaller than the typical linebacker.
I think Odom too.
Well, Odom is a safety, so he hasn't converted to be a linebacker. Yeah. Then there's Marcelino, McCrary, Ball, and DFF, Demetrius Flanagan Falls. Those are our 5 linebackers. So I think you can get away with smaller, more athletic, faster linebackers when you have 3 of them on the field. But when they're, inside linebackers, that is. But in a 3-4 where you've got 2 guys who are actually playing edge, and they're going to end up in coverage or pass rushing primarily, then you only have 2 linebackers inside. Then they maybe need to be a little bit bigger, like the more traditional linebackers, like Levante David or Devin White, just to note the Bucks run a 3-4, and those are 2 big linebackers they have in the middle there. I think you need at least 1 big linebacker, like Devin White type, or like a Roquan Smith, or there's a lot of them out there. I think Darius Leonard, or I guess he's going by Shaquille Leonard, is more like Fred, but he's a bigger hitter than Fred. So when hopefully his back gets better, because I pretty much lost him this season.
Yeah. No, that's a good point. Let's see. Kind of done with the list. You got anything else you want to bring up?
Just that, there's, we've got the Cards coming up this weekend.
What's your prediction?
I mean, I typically wait to do a prediction until, game time, because there's a lot of questionable guys for the Cardinals. There's a lot of guys out. In my article, it should be coming out soon. I was saying, like, basically pretty much everyone on the Cards is out, and a lot of guys you don't know are out. And basically the guys that are playing, it's like Hollywood Brown is in. James Conner is questionable. JJ Watt, who's retiring, is in. Marcus Golden is, I think he might be questionable. There's literally like 5 or 6 guys that and other than that, like most of their O-line is out. Rondale Moore's out. D-Hop's out. Kyler's out. Colt McCoy is out. Justin Pugh is out. You just go down their offensive line, their skill players. A bunch of their defenders are questionable. Their entire linebacking core, Zaven Collins and I'm blanking, Isaiah Simmons, are both questionable. We know Budda Baker's out. He's been out for a while. So, I mean, it's like you try and find also Byron Murphy Jr., their star corner is out, and their other corner, Marco Williams, or Marco, whatever his name is questionable. Buddha's out. Their other safety is questionable. It's like they're all either out or questionable. So, like, I mean, it's an NFL game. You can lose any NFL game. It's possible, but I would be pretty shocked if we somehow lost this game. I think we're pretty much guaranteed the number 2 seed, and I wouldn't be terribly shocked if the Eagles lost to the Giants, but the Giants don't have anything to play for, which always hurts their chances of knocking off the Eagles.
So you brought it up, and I hadn't thought about this yet, but not that I think it changes the outcome of the game. I don't really want to be playing JJ Watt in his last game.
Yeah, he's a monster.
Remember the Pro Bowl when nobody was playing and he breaking his nose trying to get a truck? Like, that's not the guy I want to play on his last game, bro.
And it's like going to be their Super Bowl. They got nothing but this. So whoever is left will probably get a pretty good effort from those folks.
I think
they have McBride. They've got their tight end McBride. They've got Hollywood Brown, Connor, and there's like one other wide receiver I'm blanking on.
I just hope J.J. Watt doesn't finish like Kobe.
Oh, man.
You know what I'm saying? Last game like Kobe. You know what I'm saying? Destroying the offensive line, wreaking havoc. You know what I mean? Just, oh, man. Do you think the 49ers, I know you won't give a score prediction, but do you think the Niners will cover the spread? I think it's at 14.
Last I saw was 14. Yeah, that's a lot. Yeah. That's a lot. It depends on all these questionable guys. I mean, I don't know. We're at Levi's, right? So if we were away, I would say no way. But at Levi's, maybe, I would take the Cards and the points. Just because I think we might get up by more than 14 in the game, and then we'll start pulling people, and then they'll come back, that type of thing.
But they're playing
earlier in the season. I would be more willing to do it, but rolling into the playoffs the way we are, there's that. How much do you want to risk in a game that? I mean, I'm not gonna call it meaningless.
No, I got you, but the list that you listed out of who's inactive, it seems like they're already on their third string. Their second and third string. So it's like,
yeah,
you know what I mean? Like I have a feeling that our second string is better than their second string.
Oh,
you know what I mean?
No, I'm just saying.
It's a lot of pressure.
I would take the bet. I would take the 14-point bet at halftime. That we're up by 14 at halftime. At the end of the game, I'm going to say no. Put it that way.
Okay.
Not that we won't get up by 14. I just don't think we'll stay up by 14.
We get a little window into what Ted's thinking the game's going to go. All right. Don't get a score.
Just said Greg Dortch. That was the other name I was trying to think of, who actually has been pretty good this season. So he had that big play against us. It was like a screen or something, and he just went for like 80 yards or something ridiculous. It might have been the biggest play of that game in Mexico State for the Cards.
Mariah.
And if that's the correct spelling, then I misspelled it. I need too many names I put in there.
Knowing Mariah, this is not not how she actually thought saying this. There's probably another word I don't even want no. That sounds dumb. Yes, it does. It does. Oh, like working against what we've already built, like changing it to make it better. Like I kind of like what they did in the secondary this year, and kind of instead of going away from like cover 2 to what we did a lot of as far as man, going to cover 3s and cover 1s. I like it. It just keeps everybody guessing, and everybody on the team knows how to play it, and is proficient with it. And yeah, I don't care about disguising coverages too much. You know what I mean? I think being in position to make the right play is better than making someone guess. You know what I mean? Like if you gotta disguise it in a way that leaves somebody on an island right in the bat, you know what I mean? It's not a good thing. Yeah. What do you got going on the rest of the week? Anything big?
I've got Aaron this afternoon at 3 Pacific, 6 Eastern, our weekly First and Ted show. We normally do it on Wednesdays at 3:30, but I was traveling yesterday trying to get home from Hawaii in the storm, which was harrowing to say the least. It was actually a pretty nice flight up till the last 20-25 minutes coming into San Jose, and then it got rough as you want to be. It was like riding a bucking bronco coming in, but we made it safely. I was turning green and starting to sweat, but my son, who normally gets car sick before, and has troubles with that, had no problems, and he was laughing and saying, "This is fun, Dad." And I was just like, "Oh man, not for me." I wasn't scared. I just, I was scared I was going to hurt him, but made it safely, and luckily I hadn't eaten too much because I knew it was going to be rough coming in there. So,
have you ever flown into Denver?
Yeah, Denver's bad. Albuquerque's bad. Phoenix can be bad too with the thermal all those with the thermals and the wind shear. It can be a little harrowing.
When I came into Colorado, the tail was swinging. Okay, and as we're not touched down, obviously we're not touched down yet. The tail's swinging, and the tail swung so much the other way, and as it's swinging back, I'm like, if we don't set down and we swing back the other way, we're so low, we're gonna do cartwheels, bruh. Like I kind of grew up in a aviation type family. Like, I had known about P-51s and P-40s, and my grandpa built a Sopwith Camel remote controlled airplane with like fabric on it that felt like canvas. I mean, he for the stitching, he used glue, you know what I mean, and made stitches with the glue. This thing was in the family longer than my little sister, but at the time it crashed and my grandma wept. You know what I'm saying? Like, and then I was like, oh, we come around, and right as we come down, it's centered. He dropped the butt end of the plane, the tail of the plane, and we were on the runway. And I was like, oh, this guy's worth his money. Because literally the swinging got bigger each time we got, every time it swang, it swang with more velocity. And I was like, next time, like, let's go put the wing on the tarmac.
That would not be good. No cartwheels. Say that for the gymnasts, not the airplanes.
So you got a show with that? Anything next week that's big coming up? I know you have good. I want to make sure everybody knows what you got planned.
We're trying to put something together with a few folks, Paul Hope and Izzy and Adam from Driving to the Top Productions. And Mark Adams, Adam and Mark Adams. We're just trying to get our schedules together for today and tomorrow. We're going to see if we can put a show together, but that's about it. I got some other things, but they're not show related today and tomorrow. So my schedule is actually busy, or hard to find shows, but not a lot of them on there usually.
Gotcha.
Real life stuff. Yeah.
Oh, and where can they find your articles at?
Oh, sure. It's at All 49ers FN or all49ers.com. And then, Grant posts and retweets them. So you can find them through Grant Cohn, who's my editor for Sports Illustrated.
My cohort, Waruna, I believe you had him on your show.
I did.
Yeah. Yep. Waruna also writes for Grant. Good organization Grant got going over there. Oh, shoot. What up, Bashar?
Hey, Bash.
Thanks for tuning in. Bashar also, I have a show with Bashar next Monday. It's called Niner World Order, and it's got Bashar from 49er Minded here. It's got Beto from Niner Sickness, and it's got Aaron from 49ers First Takes, which I'm pretty sure you've probably done a show with all of them before.
Yeah, Beto and I are working on getting one going here, but I'm sure it won't be too long.
Good. Yeah. Beto's a good dude. I appreciate Beto a lot. Yeah, he's a kick in the pants too.
Yeah, no doubt about it. Just good, strong opinion. That's all you can ask. So.
And he's smart. He's seen things. He's been around. He's seen a lot of the games. Seen all the Super Bowls. First person. You know what I mean? That's something it's a good experience to kind of look back and ask questions. Because he's got perspective along the years.
Just old fart like me. I mean,
yeah. You know what I mean? It's good. It's good to be able to ask people, hey, because I got into it in the 80s, mid 80s, about being the Niners, and somebody beforehand, they can kind of, hey, this is actually what it was like when you watched the games. This is what the feeling was like. This is what the people said. I just remember everybody bashing or Steve Young.
It's great that all the games are on YouTube, and you can go back and rewatch them. But watching a game when you know the outcome, it's just not the same as that feeling, the emotion you have of not knowing, or in the case of Joe Montana, knowing that almost no matter what happens, somehow he was going to find a way to win the game and pull it out, especially in the big games. Incredible.
Yeah. Well, all right. I want to thank you for coming on. Hope you have a wonderful rest of your day.
Thank you for having me. Everybody be sure and like and subscribe to Border Sport, also TED Talks Ball. We appreciate the likes and subscribes and comments and all that good stuff.
And I want to thank everybody who tuned in today. East Coast Red and Gold podcast. Go check them out. Go subscribe. They're always having a show. Mariah also has a show today, 3:45. Ted's got a show at 3:00. Eric, thank you for subbing to my man Ted over here. I'm sure you'll enjoy it. Tommy, thanks for coming in. I don't know if you're on your lunch break or not, but I appreciate you, sir. Brian Culp, and Damian Lee. Remember Damian? Am I missing anybody else? Tommy Huxley, Cowboy Angel. There we are. All right. And with that, have a wonderful day.
Thanks, Ryan.